All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. We'll have a couple other people trickle in, sure, we usually do, since it's right around lunchtime. So thanks for coming to our latest Lunch and Learn that we're having. This is another one in a series that's all about the benefits that are offered here at the university. I always feel that I do a very rubbish job introducing this, so I'm going to introduce Amber Faye to talk a little bit about the putting together of this presentation.
Thank you. So we started talking and having these conversations, gosh, probably about 6 or 7 months ago, and really thought it'd be a great idea to capitalize on the series and focus on one of the pillars around pay recognition, which is what you'll hear from today. And so I've actually, since I started these conversations, I have transitioned roles out of HR and back into healthcare, but I have the experts here with us today, so I'll sort of introduce them, but we're going to start with pay. That's going to be Debbie Carwile and Katie Roberts, and then recognition is going to be our recognition crew on the healthcare side to speak to some of the methodologies they employ there and just some tips and things that you can leave with regards to recognition, and that's Crystal Gafford, the employee engagement manager. So without further ado, I will go ahead and have them come on up. It's like the introduction of the introduction of the introduction.
So I am Katie McRoberts. I am the manager of compensation. This is Debbie Carwile. She is the director of compensation. So this is kind of our agenda for our pay discussion. We'll go over the 4 pillars. Also a little bit more details, also looking at salary increases over time, total compensation statement, pay equities, and how we do market analysis and how we compare to market, and then employee pay. So one of the things we are talk about is the 4 pillars, but today we'll go over the pay and recognition, but the other 3 pillars are benefits and well-being, learning and development, and community. And when we talk about pay and recognition or pay, we are talking about more than just take-home pay. So we're talking about all the benefits, the perks, work environment, anything related to pay. So one of the things you can look at is the total compensation statement. If you've gone into My UK, there is a link on this this PowerPoint presentation also, but it will take you to your total compensation statement that has your benefit information, your pay grade, your pay information as well. So if you want to check that out, look at all of the different details, your titles on there, but all of that very important information is on that statement, and it's great to look at it. If you ever change positions, it's always nice to see the change too, looking at that as well. Also, we have the link that is on our HR website to the salary increases. We have what is on our website is beginning in 2004, 2005 to last year's merit. And this is the fiscal year, last year's fiscal year. We have all of the merit information broken down by year, and it's also broken down by what campus or university received versus what UK healthcare received. So it's very interesting to see the different allocations that were done each year. There's also the salary allocation guidelines for campus and UK healthcare as well. That just goes over who's eligible to get a merit increase, and what are the criteria for if it's just a pool, if it's flat, everyone is getting the same rate. Those type of different guidelines are in that. But it's very interesting whenever we hear if people didn't get a merit increase for 10 years. That's one of the good things that to go through, and you can see where there were only a couple years sporadically that we did not receive a merit increase. So it's nice to go in and reference that as well.
I'm sorry. Where did you say these links
are? Hopefully you can get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, the slides from John and Danae. right? I can send that out after. So you can just click on when you bring up that slide deck, you can just click on those blue underlined areas and be able to pull up those links.
But they're available under HR
Mhm.
and online.
Yep.
Just go to HR total compensation statement in the search box.
I think you can get to the instructions from there.
Okay. Thank you.
And then when we talk about pay equity, we want to look at many things of making sure that we have an equitable practice. One of the things is fairness to the employee, what we're looking at. We're also looking at rules and regulations as to why things are graded a certain way, why positions are even allocated a certain way. We also, the perception of fairness, we also will want, we have a supervision training that all supervisors at the university have to go through. And that's one of the things that we want to have that discussion with supervisors too, on how to have those discussions with employees on their pay, and especially if you have several people in one classification in your unit, having that conversation on how fair and equitable the pay practice is. The other thing, one of the things where we have two different systems, UK healthcare and the university, we do have differences. There are different merit cycles, different PE cycles. There's different grading scales. Healthcare is from 3 to 20, whereas campus is 36 to 54. We've had to, where minimum wage has changed, we've taken away some of the grades. That's why we've changed the grades on where it starts. But these are not always the case from campus to UK healthcare, because sometimes on campus we will have to work holidays, but that's kind of a breakdown of what we do look at. This is generalities of what we see, but that is not always the case, because maybe areas in either section that would actually fall in the other category. But just, we always like to have that conversation looking at the different things. And then we do a market analysis every year for every single position at the university. We do not look just at title, we actually look at job descriptions as well. And this is a breakdown of what we look at for each area. For campus, we are going through CUPA, which is College and University Professional Association. And then we do custom cuts with the benchmarks and SEC schools. And then for UK healthcare, we are looking at other different survey results, which is KHA, AMC, and MGMA. And then we're also doing custom cuts with similar organizations as well. So that's a big lookout where we are actually doing a market analysis every year for every single position at the university. So that's, a lot of people don't know that that happens, but that's how we stay competitive, by having those market surveys, market analysis done every year. And for pay grades, we have, where I told you there's two different scales on campus and healthcare. We are also striving for somebody that has 7+ years of experience, direct job related experience. We strive to pay at the midpoint, but there could be restraints as far as if there's equities or if there's a budget restraint. So there are some other circumstances as to why you may not be at the midpoint, but that is the what we strive to do in total pay. And also, one of the things, just a reminder, with that total compensation statement, you can go and see your grade and your title to check that out and see if there's any questions on that as well. We also have the grades and the pay scales too on the compensation website as well, which will also be on those links.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it open to questions? Okay. You strive to pay up to the midpoint for 7+ years. So you're saying that in theory, if someone is in their position for 7 years, they should have attained the midpoint range of their salary.
So this is when we are hiring somebody in, yeah, because when somebody is already in seat, if they could get a salary increase if there's an equity that has to be paid, or when the merit adjustment. So that's where, or our annual merit increases, that's kind of where people would move in this scale then. But that's the strive for bringing somebody in. That's where we would strive to. But again, there's some other forces that could prevent us from being able to get to that point. But that is what our vision is.
We have about 60 colleagues online, so if we get more questions from the audience, we need to either hand the mic around or have the speaker.
Okay, perfect. We have one more slide, so then we can. So in here's, we also have then the total compensation calculator, which is a wonderful tool. The question is, do people take jobs at UK earning less money in their paychecks? So one of the things that this calculator will do is you are from another organization where you can plug in all of your benefits, because that base number may be different from what you are making now versus what you're being offered. But then you can plug in your insurance, what type of insurance you're going to have, any other benefits that UK offers. You can also plug in the benefits from the organization you're at, and then it will show you a number at the end of it of what the total compensation is. So it's a great tool, especially if you're hiring somebody from either out of state or out of UK. They can plug in all of those numbers and see that the different total compensation. There's also a cost of living calculator in that same area in the compensation website that, again, if you're, obviously our pay is going to be a little different than California's pay, so that you can plug in those numbers and see truly if that number may be different, but once you plug in the cost of living, it could be way different as far as you're making more coming here because of that cost of living difference. But that total, the number may look different from what's being offered just based on that cost of living difference. Any questions?
I have a question when you were talking about the way that you analyze with the market analysis of the job. Sometimes what you're doing is not exactly what everybody else is doing because you're the first one online doing it, you're the innovator. But I noticed that it's very hard when you ask for the adjustment of positions for your department to really, use that, because it's something new, it's unique, it's not like everything else. Like in my position, I'm program director, but they select program coordinator. But my jobs and my functions is to report. I collect all the statistics, I run and report to Frankfurt, and I'm in charge, and I'm the one that I'm bilingual, bicultural. I even design my marketing strategies. I have a 1-800 line. And so when they try to tell them I'm program director, they say, well, the compensation department, we understand what you do and we like what you do, and we understand that the compensation, they don't see another match position like yours. Yours is different and they don't see it, so they're here, you are program director number 2. So in this case, what is to do? I've been working for 16 years. I have experience. I'm bilingual and bicultural. Frankfurt knows great job that I do, and they constantly tell me, Victoria, you do more than, we know that you do way more. You love to help the people, and that's what I do. I love to help people, and that's what it really makes me do what I do. Get a database. I did my own database. I have implemented a whole system of reaching out, statewide, because our grant is statewide. But when it comes to the job, I don't see that there is a simulation. My job doesn't reflect what I do, even though I write, and let them know. So what do you do in those cases? How can you, or what is need to do maybe so I can, change it to be what it is, program director?
So that's a great question, because we know that every single title at the university, because we have like 2,000 titles for campus, 1,500 titles for UK healthcare. We know that every single title is not going to have market data associated with it, but the ones that we do have market data for, we kind of use those as for benchmarking purposes. So benchmarks are university we look at, but benchmarking purposes are where we try to use information that we have market data for, and the ones that we don't, to kind of line those up. So you're a program coordinator, right? Okay, so you probably have, and we'll just say that you have in span of control, we'll say research associates just for ease. So we have market data for research associates. We would expect that coordinator to maybe be like a grade higher. So we can use that market data for the research associates, see where they are, and make sure that that coordinator is higher than the research associate. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay.
At 5 come in. So why does UK continue to have 2 pay grades, campus versus healthcare? It is very confusing trying to compare similar job titles.
You may take it.
Sure.
So higher education and healthcare are 2 different industries. So sometimes I theorize athletics may be a third industry, but for our purposes, we've divided them between higher education and healthcare. Does that answer the person's question?
So I'll keep an eye and see if they follow up. I'll go on to the next one. What merits an equity pay increase?
What merits, so we'll look for a little pun there, merit the equity pay increase.
Yeah.
And then how often are staff positions reevaluated?
So the equity that we have a 5% tolerance in place, so that if somebody comes in from the outside with we'll say a alignment in their experience, then we have that 5% tolerance. They could come in 5% higher, not trigger an equity adjustment. If it's over the 5% in that job title, then that would trigger an equity adjustment. And then they asked about reclassifications.
There's a different person.
Okay.
Why doesn't healthcare consider education in pay and campus does? Education should count on both sides to be consistent and fair to all.
So if we think about it from a national perspective, so we have salary surveys that give us that base salary information, and we look at that with the years of job-related experience. So that market average, we're looking at the 7+ years of experience. But the participants who report that salary data, and us too, we don't take into account education in reporting that. So I've been in human resources almost 30 years. And this is the first place I've worked or knew of where they count education as part of that compensation process. So it's not something we normally find in the industry.
Also, the person who asked how often staff were reevaluated just asked. Sorry, I missed the answer.
So every year we do an annual review of where people fall in their current pay grade, and looking at that market data to do a comprehensive analysis of both. So not just the in range and just the market, but both.
And one more, there's a person whose title is pretty unique to UK, and so they want to know how their position gets compared to other institutions.
So Katie mentioned that we look at the descriptions and the summaries because people are going to call different jobs different things. I mean, I even heard of years ago in healthcare where a head of the maintenance department got emperor of maintenance in his job title somehow or another. So it really comes down to reading the survey descriptions and then doing the best match based on the position descriptions. So it's really important, not just for performance evaluation purposes, that your position description is up to date and reflective of what you're doing in your major job responsibilities.
That's all I got.
Sorry.
I don't know if I should throw that at you. You might have a workers' comp injury.
Still stressful. I have a question about, I hope it's just a perception. I'm happy to be proven wrong. It almost feels as though when you're at UK, sometimes it's not advantageous to stay a long time in regards to pay, in that if you move positions, move departments, it's my understanding there's a limit on how much your pay can increase, even with like a job role change. And therefore, you might be able to make more had you been like an outside candidate since you were capped from being an internal candidate. Is that true? Is there a cap when you move positions? I'll walk it.
Come on. Do you want me to take that one? Or? So I think where we hear about caps or maximums that people can get as a promotional increase, those are set by the areas, departments, and it's usually based on their budget. They may only have X number of dollars budgeted for a job, and that's going to apply to internal and external applicants. So where you're hearing a cap is probably going to be like a budget, the amount of budget they have to spend.
But the same practice is being done for external and internal employees. So it's going to be the same process. Either you are from St. Joe or from UK, you are still getting that same review when you're either applying for a position. Obviously, a reclass, you are already at UK, but that same process.
Who should we contact if the JAQ is not being updated within the department?
Your supervisor. Is that flow to get to us in compensation, it has to come through the supervisor. So they're going to have to approve those job changes.
Do you have any suggestions on how to navigate that conversation so it happens?
Yeah, the person in chat's concerned because their supervisor isn't doing that.
Well, I think having those great conversations with your supervisor is going to be the key to that. And you could do that in an objective way. You can show them your job description and then, point out the things that maybe need to be changed. But bear in mind that we don't put every single duty in the job description. It's more of major job responsibilities, essential functions.
And your performance evaluation time is a perfect opportunity because you should be going through that with your supervisor and your MJRs are in that, in success factors. So you're being evaluated on each one. So if you're not doing those responsibilities or it has shifted in that way, that's a great time to have that conversation of, okay, my job is shifting this way. Can we get that updated on my job description? So next year I can be truly evaluated on what.
We're running out of time, but let's go ahead and take this question back here. And then we'll let Crystal do her part. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Kevin walked up behind me.
So my question is in regards to healthcare, the market is based, I assume, on academic universities as far as healthcare goes. What's sort of unique is where I'm with Good Samaritan, a community-based hospital that was purchased by the university. How is it that you compare the market with something like that? Because we're sort of outside the box. And the reason I say that is because at Chandler Hospital, I work in radiology. There is a general ultrasound lab and a vascular ultrasound lab that's ran by a totally different department, vascular surgeons. At Good Samaritan, we're both in one. So what happens to us when we're hiring is we require both skill sets, but we're not getting applicants. So as far as compensating people with those additional skill sets, how do we handle that?
Thank you. So we've actually worked on that issue with the departments over there. But going back to your question about market, so for healthcare, we're looking at Kentucky Hospital Association data. So those are the healthcare facilities in Kentucky. But then we're looking at gross revenue, FTEs, beds. And so Good Samaritan is getting the benefits of us using the highest level of beds and FTEs based on Chandler. So that survey, we do those together. So you're getting the benefit of those higher numbers, even though Good Samaritan is not at that size on its own.
Okay. I guess my main question is mainly just with hiring, because I've been here almost 11 years, and when we're hiring people, you get one or the other generally. Just the nature of our industry. It's like you go in general, you go in vascular, peds, or echo, or whatever, and so where we're requiring both, it's very difficult to find qualified individuals because essentially I can make the same thing doing one or the other versus us doing both. I guess that was my main question.
So we look at those modalities in that survey, whether it's vascular, ultrasound, MRI, CT. And I think in that case, where they're doing two, we went with the higher of the two market values for that. So I would talk to your supervisor if you're still having problems.
Okay.
Is Crystal's on?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you all see me? I feel like I need to step up here. My name is Crystal Gabbard. I'm the Employee Engagement Manager. I work on the UK healthcare side. And as Katie mentioned and talked a little bit about pay, part of that pillar when you think about total compensation, not only is pay, but it's recognition. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit more about why recognition, what is recognition, why it's important, and some items that we've implemented within UK healthcare. And then I'll be sharing some tips as you think about recognition within your area and how to move forward with that. So the first thing I want to kind of talk about, in a recent global study that was completed, there were 6 essential items or elements that were identified by employees that told us these were things that were most important to us when it comes to our workplace culture. So those 6 items were purpose, opportunity, success, appreciation, well-being, and leadership. So today I kind of want to focus a little bit more on just that one element of appreciation and why that's important. So when you think about what appreciation is a feeling of when someone does something for you. So when you think about maybe a coworker stepping in to help you, recognition is the action of showing your appreciation. And that event right there really helps our employees, so whether it's a manager or a coworker, someone in a different department that we're working with, when you give them that recognition, it shows you that helps them feel valued for the contributions that they've made. What's on this slide is just a definition that we found that kind of highlights what employee recognition is. So I want to talk a little bit why recognition is important. So we know in 2000, based on our employee engagement survey, we ask a question on our survey, I'm satisfied with the recognition I receive. So that's a question that we asked, and based on responses that we received from that question, our employee engagement survey, we actually, and other additional comments, UK Health decided we need to focus on how do we to build a culture of appreciation. And we really need to come up with a strategy around recognition and how do we do that, because strong recognition can have a lot of the benefits that you see on the slide. It can increase employee engagement. It does allow managers and employees to build a stronger working relationship, because when you recognize someone for great work, it allows you to start to build trust within the team. So a lot of positives. In fact, when you look at looking at engagement, this slide shows you that employees who receive strong recognition are more engaged. So you think about too, when you give someone recognition for doing great work, so maybe they've implemented a new process or created a standard operating procedure, or maybe did something for the enterprise that made everybody's job a little easier, and you recognize that individual for that work, they're going to feel valued. And when you give that recognition, they're going to continue to do that, right? So as you give that recognition, they're going to continue to do that great work. And when you think about that, it's increasing productivity for our organization overall. So the orange line shows you highly engaged employees, both that receive strong recognition, rate more than 2 to 1. They're going to be more satisfied and highly engaged, the stronger the recognition is that they received. In fact, a study found and asked employees the question about what causes great work. So when you ask that to employees, the #1 response that we received back was that
37% said, I want to be recognized. So some of them said, really don't need. 13% said, don't need anything at all. 12 said, just want autonomy. 12% said, inspire me. But when you look at all the responses back, 37% said, just recognize me. Now, what we've learned as we've implemented our recognition strategy at UK Healthcare is that it's really important that we recognize for the right work, right? So recognizing people for thanking them for what they do on a day-to-day basis, so their major job responsibilities, versus recognizing them for things that go above and beyond. So we really had to think about doing a lot of training around the right size recognition, because recognizing someone for work they should be doing can also cause disengagement too. So you have to be very mindful about how you're implementing the recognition and what you're recognizing for. So again, as I mentioned, based on feedback from our employee engagement survey, on that question, I'm satisfied in the recognition I received, we decided let's focus on what our recognition strategy for UK Healthcare is going to be. So in 2017, one of the items that we implemented was the STAR program. So the STAR program stands for Special Thanks and Recognition. And this was, again, all based on that feedback. And this program is a web-based program that allows our managers and our staff, every employee within UK Healthcare, to recognize when they see great work. So there's two kind of components to the STAR program. You can send an e-card to your employee if they do something to help you out on a day-to-day basis. So just for great work. So the other day I had a team member that I had a deadline that jumped in and helped me with a PowerPoint. So I sent an e-card. Hey, thanks for taking time out of your day, and was very specific in acknowledging what that person did for me. So you can send an e-card, and you can also nominate when you see great work that goes above and beyond those day-to-day interactions. So in the system, you can give a bronze, silver, or gold nomination, and our employees receive points to purchase gifts over a period of time. So the STAR program was one way that we've implemented in building our recognition. I will say, looking at our response to that question, I'm satisfied with the recognition I received from 2017 to 2019. We've seen a significant increase in that response, that in the scoring to that number on our employee recognition in our employee engagement survey. So it's definitely helping make a difference by implementing that. Another way that was really important to us as we implemented this strategy, not only with the STAR program, but I'll talk a little bit about our career achievement process that we revamped, is that all of our recognition was tied to our core values. So UK Healthcare's core values is direct. It stands for diversity, innovation, respect, compassion, and teamwork. So our core values are the foundation of everything we do. So we've implemented those into our hiring process, into our performance evaluations, and also into it was really important we implemented those into our recognition process. So when someone goes into the STAR program and they give an e-card to someone within the organization, or they send a nomination, they have to actually select what value they're giving that recognition for, and explain what was the action the person did that contributed to our values. So it was really important that we implemented our values into our recognition strategy, and that is the foundation of what we've implemented. So outside of the STAR program, we also revamped our career achievement program, which recognizes employees for milestone anniversaries. So that used to be an annual event, and now that is a monthly event, and where we recognize individuals for their milestone anniversaries that go every 5 years. So 5, 10, 15, 20. We hold a monthly ceremony that recognizes our employees. So we do a little reception for them, and they also get a yearbook. They're able to purchase a gift. And also, the most impactful thing about that yearbook is that managers can send this yearbook out to staff, to their coworkers, previous coworkers, and they can go in and upload comments and pictures. And that really makes a difference when an employee gets that yearbook and sees the comments just from their past few years. I recently had my 10-year anniversary, and I was so excited when I went in and saw all these pictures that were uploaded and all the comments that were made. It really made a difference. So in 2018, UK Healthcare celebrated over 1,300 honorees and over 18,000 years of almost 18,000 years of service. So we do special recognition for those individuals that do 40, 45, 50 years of service. So those are just a couple of ways that we we've implemented to help with our recognition strategy. Some other events that we have on the UK Healthcare is we have the DAISY Awards, which are nursing awards. We do a SAW award for patient-centered care that highlights 4 different areas across the enterprise. We have an Amy Wilson Award, which highlights an administrative award across the enterprise. Last year, we were really involved with the Campus Outstanding Staff Awards, which we had a great representation across the university, but we also made sure that we had a good representation from UK Healthcare last year as well. We also do a lot of department-specific awards. So like our IT department, they do a quarterly award, and we work directly with them to implement, make sure they're following the policies and procedures. They've got an award code through campus. So we make sure that if a department wants to implement a recognition or award, they work directly with our office to make sure that all the processes are covered for that. So when you think about recognition, and some tips that I could give, I think is first and foremost, give deliberate thanks, spontaneous praise, formal recognition. And I pulled some numbers too that just kind of highlighted, have those memorized, but when you give a deliberate thank you, employees feel 116% more appreciated. Spontaneous praise, employees feel 172% more appreciated. And formal recognition, employees feel 355% more appreciated. So it's important that you take time and that you make recognition a habit. Because if you're like me, we're always busy, right? But to take time and make sure you're making recognition a habit and that you are showing your appreciation when a coworker helps you out, it does make a difference and help build that culture of appreciation. I think finding time of when you recognize individuals for great work is important. So whether it's at a team meeting, a staff meeting, a town hall meeting, whatever might work, that presentation of that recognition can make a huge difference and a strong impact for that individual. Also thinking through giving specific recognition. So I recently, one of the things that I do is I support our university in doing focus groups with our teams across healthcare. And I was working with a group, we did some focus groups to kind of talk about some information that we received back from the employee engagement survey. And we were talking about recognition, and I asked 2 questions. My first question is, what do you want to be recognized for? And how do you want to be recognized? The top 2, and there were probably about 200 employees in this unit, and the top 2 items that I received back is number 1, a sincere, specific email from my supervisor on what I did and that highlights the impact I made. So it was an email. So we can all send emails, right? It just takes a little time. So making it a habit, and maybe that's blocking your calendar for 20 or 30 minutes on Friday to go back and think about what was the great experiences that I had or my coworkers that helped me, and think about how you can spend some time recognizing those individuals. So the second way that from that focus group, we learned how individuals want to be recognized is a handwritten note. So just taking time to get a thank you note and doing a handwritten note specific on what the actions were that the employee did and the impact that they made and how that contributed and linked to our values was the second way that employees wanted to be recognized. they also like food. So that was also something that came out in that focus group. So I think that, again, when you think about recognition and how you can implement that within your area and department, first making sure it's sincere, specific, it does build loyalty, connection to your employees and staff. So those are some of the ways that when you think about pay, recognition is a big part of that pillar. Do you have any specific questions about recognition strategies that you have, or just questions in general?
I have two from the chat. Let me just let me know and ask them. So, for employee recognition, can we go back to giving employees half day off or full day off? As a manager, that comment has been suggested to me many times rather than selecting.
So I know that used to be an option, and I look at Amber Lee, I think that they had, but I think we revamped the program. That was something that they eliminated.
And another question, why are there different recognition ceremonies for campus versus UK healthcare employees?
So is that the monthly recognition? Is that?
Did not specify.
Not specified. So I know for UK healthcare, on the campus side, each department and area does recognition a little differently. So maybe specific for their colleges. I know when I was in human resources, we had a lot of recognition events. We had our ACE awards, and the departments oversaw those recognition programs. So I think for UK healthcare, we implemented these programs as an overall enterprise, and went up to our leadership to get appropriate approvals to do some things enterprise-wide. Now, also within UK healthcare, our departments can also do things within their specific areas, and that's been a way that they've worked departmental-wise too.
So I'm the staff council chair for the College of Public Health.
Okay.
Is the STAR program able to be expanded to other campuses? One of my charges is to find additional ways to recognize and award our staff. And so I was wondering if that could be expanded. And your books, that sounded really interesting. Is that something?
Yes, so I know the program was implemented specifically for UK healthcare and the employees within that enterprise. That's what I know now. I think it all comes down to looking at budget too, and what areas can do in regard to their budget. So I think that's important to know too. So I can't say that we can expand it to include other areas. I know that we've been on the healthcare side very inclusive to start including some of our graduate medical education, Eastern State Hospital, but we also work with those areas in regards to budget too, to help fund some of those, some of the courses. But I'd be happy to talk to you and talk about some different ways that we can maybe work together, or some ideas on recognition items that you can implement within your area. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can the day off be put on the table?
I did not.
Can you add it as a survey item to see what campus employees, if that's something they want?
For campus employees?
Or sorry, they didn't say campus, sorry, that's what employees want.
Okay, so I think, obviously I didn't answer that question very well. So I really can't talk to that because I don't know a lot of the history of why that was removed. Amber Lee, yeah.
So some of the history, we actually did look at that when some of this, when we were gathering data to make the proposal for the STAR program, so about probably 3 or 4 years ago. And surprisingly, well, how that originated was a little bit by accident. And then we actually started tracking the utilization of that day. And shockingly enough, it was not highly utilized. So, and I think on the healthcare side, what we saw was people weren't actually able to take that day because of staffing issues. And so it ended up becoming a huge dissatisfier that it was even offered. So we did tons of focus groups, lots of feedback with employees, multiple surveys. And what we decided was let's remove that and focus our energies on something that we can actually take advantage of. And so everyone was really excited about putting their resources in the STAR program. So that's sort of, I don't know if that answers the question, but it's a little bit of the background of the thinking that went behind having that day off. So.
And I have a follow-up from who asked about different kinds of recognition. They said that the UK healthcare sounds like it offers recognition, so why not offer a standard recognition process across campus?
I'll bring Katie Lasley. This one.
So hi, can they hear when you ask? Okay, good. I don't need to repeat. I always get stressed out about that. So the idea of having a standardized recognition program has a lot of appeal to it. Thinking that we have a uniform experience for all of our employees across the university, regardless of where they work. Our current model, as described, is very localized. So if a area is very focused on research, then maybe their recognition programs are focused on achievements in research or in human resources. Crystal mentioned we're very much focused on customer service. So recognition programs are all about customer service. So there's trade-offs and everything. So certainly would offer that. I would say to the point about sounds like healthcare. So now we know this is a recruitment pitch, right? Healthcare's trying to get all the folks. I'm teasing. But they have a really great model in place in terms of recognition. There are lots of things that they do standardized across the enterprise. It's a large group of individuals in UK healthcare that have access to that one standard program. It's a significant financial investment to run this program. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it is.
It's big.
Crystal says it's big. So I think that if we thought about a model that would appeal to or be applied, I should say, to the whole of the university, we would need to think about where would the funds come from for that, and how can we maintain that it's meaningful. Healthcare, as she shared, is focused around the direct values, which are shared values among all of UK healthcare, as big as they are. They've been able to identify that. I would suggest that we need to do some careful thinking and work to find a program for the whole of the university, as diverse as we are in our functions, but we are working towards as team members, something that would connect with everybody. It's a long answer.
And I think too, just build off that one point that Katie made is that, like I mentioned when I did the focus groups, the number one response from over 200 people was a sincere, specific email that they wanted to know what they did and how it impacted those patients and family members and coworkers, and a handwritten thank you notes. Those are simple and pretty easy, not expensive ways to recognize. So out of all the things that individuals could have come back with, the STAR program is just one way to recognize. And there are many different, avenues of how you can make recognition meaningful to individuals in different areas.
I think I have a different question that's sort of related while you're up there, Katie. Are the off-campus sites taken in consideration when deciding the types of recognitions?
For campus, I'll answer for campus and university-wide, recognition programs are local. They're locally driven. Now, certainly we have outstanding awards, which feeds up to the whole of the university. So absolutely, I would imagine if there is a clinic in Rockcastle County, they're developing their recognition program, then it is going to be specific to the team members there. So does that answer the question?
I think that if planning here at home base takes into account off-campus sites.
So like a centralized, it sounds like the question is framed around an idea that there's a central body that does recognition.
The person asking is from my office park.
Okay. Career achievement. Okay. So I think that's
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a healthcare employee perhaps is what we might be looking at, who is working not on the main medical center campus, and is their thought process put into place about how to accommodate. We hear about that, but it's hard to get back on campus sometimes. Yeah.
So again, in looking at the STAR program, it's a web-based program. So that's the good thing about that when you think about, but career achievement, we do give, we do try to accommodate individuals by providing parking and we make sure that our events are the first thing in the morning, so that if individuals do want to participate in our monthly career achievement, they can actually come first thing in the morning. And the ceremony, we're very mindful about time. It takes about 20 minutes to go through the event. So making sure that we're just thinking about the logistics of those things to ensure that we're trying to accommodate individuals that are off-site. And then if someone can't come and get their yearbook, then it's mailed to their home.
Ask you, Crystal, a question.
Yeah.
So, Crystal, it sounds like you have done a lot of research into the literature and the data about recognition. What can you tell me about peer recognition?
So I think that's one of the things when we implemented the STAR program and we started to do trainings on it, is what we found is that everybody thought the STAR program was for managers only. And that's not the case. In regards to building a culture of appreciation and a strategy of recognition, the strongest impact you can make is when it's peer-to-peer. And so we highly encourage our coworker to highlight when your coworker does great things. Send them an e-card, send them a thank you note, recognize them in a team meeting. And we actually have found that's more powerful in changing the culture when it is peer-to-peer. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Oh,
yep, okay, perfect.
So this was a very helpful presentation, but I keep hearing a lot of campus versus UK healthcare employees, like differences between the two groups. Are we not all UK employees? Does not sound to me that all employees are being treated the same.
No, she's walking away from the mic.
I was like, I'm like,
so I understand that's a rhetorical question. Yes, we are all UK employees. We all get our W-2s from the University of Kentucky, whether you're on the healthcare side or not. Debbie made a good mention about their two different industries. This is one of the challenging but wonderful things about working for a thriving academic medical centers, is that we have multiple cultures occurring in the same environment. I am intrigued and curious around the complexity of employees all being treated the same. One of the things in my time that I hear often voice, we want everyone to be treated the same. That's the thing to do, but recognize me. Recognize my special contributions. So it seems to be a fundamental tension, part of, not to sound too out there, but part of the human experience. I don't want to have anything less than anybody else, but I also want to be special. So with that said, I guess my thinking is that really what we want to work towards? Is that everyone is treated the same, not recognized for their unique contributions?
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Not a sports person, so I will not throw.
So,
I feel like I shouldn't.
question is, during your 5-year recognition, you receive, and I don't know if this is healthcare or the university in general, but you receive 5 more vacation days after 5 years. Is that correct?
It depends on what. There is an incremental increase of the number of vacations, and everyone levels out at 20. Yeah.
Okay. So that was my next question of why did we pick 5 and not 10, 15, 20? Because I was just curious, because when I went to my 10-year, and then you have people up there who was 20, 30, 40, 50, and it was kind of like, great job, way to be here. But then there was nothing. I just wonder why it was 5 and not 10 or vice versa, whatever. Like, where did the 5-year come in? I mean, if I was here a couple of years, that's something to look forward to. Yeah. But I was just curious of that, where that came about.
So, that's a great question. It's another thing to be curious about. It predates me. I've been here 20 years. I could offer a theory of thinking about those first. If you think about the first 90 days on the job, that's kind of a special space in the employees, learning how to do the job, learning how to get stuff done. And we need to kind of protect that time for the onboarding period for the employee. If you think about those first 5 years, so I'm coming up on my 5 years in the role that I'm in currently, I'm like, yeah, that was a lot of work trying to figure out how to do this job. So that's a theory I can offer. Also, it's a bit of a retention bonus, perhaps, if you will, retention award. But yeah, it's a really good question. I don't know the actual history like Amber. Oh, Debbie does. Wait. Your theory.
So I suspect, and I inherited a lot of information and documents from a person who'd been in my role for 33 years before me. So stuff back to the 1950s, 1960s. And so my sense is that they looked at what the benchmark institutions were doing with vacation. And that's how they came up with
That
it.
also sounds like things we do. Yeah.
Should we say too that it's based on your classification, it's not a campus versus healthcare.
Yeah, it's across.
Yeah.
How long did you have to work to get that 20 days?
How many years? It depends. If you're hourly, I believe it's 7, and if your salary, it's 5. It's 2 to 3 at 4 years, 3 to 4 at 7 years. 10.
I'm sorry, for the
10. Sorry.
I'm like, I do the policy.
Just 10.
And at the beginning, for 10 years.
I know that I gave vacation. I've been working 16 years, full-time 2004, part-time before that. But I stopped counting because it looks like it is always time. So you can, that's fine.
Answer for the chat then. How long you have to work to get 20 days?
It depends on if you're exempt or non-exempt.
Not the
Subject matter expert.
Exactly. Okay. So my recommendation would go to the human resource policy and look at vacation leave, and then to get in touch with employee relations, because it does depend on the classification. We have institutionally used shorthand as exempt versus non-exempt. That's a generalization. That's not always true. So I would recommend whoever is interested, find out the absolute clarity from the source of truth of and also employee relations is a good, because what's in policy talks about the different classifications, which you may not know as an individual employee.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
I want to buy.